Justin Peters is under fire for a vicious tweet about Jimmy Swaggart, posted less than 24 hours after the televangelist's death, leaving the internet ablaze with accusations of cruelty and unchristian behavior. A single tweet has set the Christian world on edge. Just one day after the passing of televangelist Jimmy Swaggart, Pastor Justin Peters dropped a bombshell on X that's got everyone talking. His words were sharp, his timing ruthless, and now people are calling him out, branding him heartless and questioning his faith. What did he say that sparked such outrage? Why are Swaggart's fans and critics alike piling on? Stay with us as we unpack the explosive tweet, the man behind it, the legacy of a fallen icon, and the heated debate that's tearing up the internet. This is a story of controversy, grief, and the fine line between truth and tact. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Let's dive into the chaos. On July 2nd, 2025, barely a day after Jimmy Swaggart's death at 90, Pastor Justin Peters took to X with a post that hit like a thunderbolt. Swaggart, a polarizing figure whose fiery sermons and scandal-ridden career shaped modern televangelism, was still fresh in the hearts of millions when Peters decided to weigh in. The result? A digital uproar that's got people questioning everything from Peters' motives to his morality. Let's break it down step by step. Let's talk about Justin Peters is no stranger to controversy himself. A pastor and speaker, he's carved out a niche as a critic of what he calls false teachers in the Christian world. His YouTube channel and seminars like Clouds Without Water target prosperity gospel preachers and charismatic leaders. People like Benny Hinn, Kenneth Copeland, and you guessed it, Jimmy Swaggart. Peters argues these figures distort the Bible, focusing on wealth or emotional highs over solid doctrine. Peters' ministry is built on exposing what he sees as theological errors. He cites verses like 1 Timothy 3:1-7, which demand church leaders be above reproach, to argue that figures like Swaggart should have been barred from ministry after their scandals. To his fans, Peters is a truth teller, unafraid to call out big names. To his critics, he's a self-righteous judge who loves the spotlight as much as the people he critiques. Either way, his words carry weight in certain Christian circles. On July 2nd, 2025, Peters posted on X, "I'm working on a video on Jimmy Swaggart. I knew he was bad and permanently disqualified from ministry, should have been, but that rarely happens in charismatic circles. But I didn't realize just how bad he actually was. Shame on anyone who has praised him in recent days." That last line, "shame on anyone who has praised him," was like tossing a match into a pile of dry leaves. Posted less than 24 hours after Swaggart's death, it didn't just criticize Swaggart's theology. It took aim at everyone mourning him, from his family to his fans. The timing couldn't have been worse. Swaggart's son, Donnie, had just shared a tearful video calling his father a good and faithful servant. The wound was raw, and Peters' tweet felt like salt. The Christian community on X erupted, with prominent figures leading the charge against Peters. Here's who spoke up, what they said, and how Peters responded. Malachi O'Brien is a pastor, author, and founder of the Run Church, a movement that encourages pastors to run marathons to build community and resilience. Known for his positive, unifying approach, he's a respected voice in evangelical circles. On July 2nd, 2025, O'Brien tweeted, "Justin, I would kindly ask you to prayerfully reconsider. A family is mourning. Friends are mourning. A church is hurting. Not the time, not the way of the Spirit." Even President Trump took a moment to honor the family in this difficult time. Peters fired back. "President Trump is not a believer. I agree with his positions, but he is not my go-to for theology. Nor is anyone who endorses Benny Hinn and Paula White. When you endorse people who for decades have shamelessly preyed upon the poor and sick for their own financial gain, please forgive me when your pleas for compassion ring of utter hypocrisy." Next, Greg Locke, a Tennessee pastor and social media influencer with a huge following, known for fiery sermons and bold takes on politics and culture. On July 3rd, 2025, he tweeted, "I'll just say what everyone else is thinking. You're a wicked Pharisee masquerading as a minister. You 100% have hidden sin in your life. Your constant bitter Betty attitude is nauseating." Peters responded, "Greg, you talking about hidden sin and recently humility is the Mount Everest of irony and hypocrisy." Next up, Tiff Shuttlesworth, a preacher and daughter-in-law of evangelist Morris Cerullo, is known for her passionate ministry and social media outreach. He tweeted, "I am saddened by the marketing of your upcoming post to expose a dead man before The family has even had a chance to place his body in the ground. The insensitivity is egregious and will damage you far more than you will damage him. Other users joined in, like @Hajan Thungal, who called Peters' attitude wicked and unchristian, and some others who wrote, "Swaggart was a huge influence on me in the mid-1980s, and I reached out to his staff and family to show them love. Jimmy isn't even buried yet. Are you representing Jesus to his family and friends, or just being a jerk?" A few supported Peters, saying, "Swaggart and those like them need to be called out for being the false teachers many of them turn out to be." But most saw the tweet as harsh and poorly timed. Why the reaction was so strong? Swaggart's death was still raw when Peters posted. He passed on July 1st, 2025, after a cardiac arrest on June 15th, and his family was grieving, with Donnie sharing emotional tributes. The funeral was set for July 12th, 13th, making Peters' tweet feel like an attack on a mourning family. Swaggart's scandals, paying a prostitute to pose nude in 1988 and being caught again in 1991, were real, but so was his impact. His music, like At an Altar of Prayer, and crusades led millions to faith, with fans on X sharing stories of being saved through his ministry. The Shame on Anyone line didn't just criticize Swaggart. It targeted his supporters, many processing their loss. Bible verses like Ephesians 4:15, speaking the truth in love, were thrown back at Peters, with figures like Shuttlesworth arguing he lacked compassion. This controversy raises a tough question. How do you speak hard truths without seeming heartless? Peters believes he's protecting the church by exposing Swaggart's scandals and theology, like his works-based teachings or anti-Catholic and anti-Semitic remarks. But posting so soon after Swaggart's death, when his family and fans were hurting, made many see Peters as cruel, even allies like Torn Curtin. This isn't just about a tweet, it's about handling complex legacies. Swaggart was a preacher who fell but kept going. Peters is a critic who speaks truth but risks sounding cold. How do you find the balance? Peters has a case. Swaggart's scandals were undeniable. In 1988, rival preacher Marvin Gorman exposed Swaggart with prostitute Deborah Murphy, who said he paid her to pose nude. In 1991, another incident led to his defrocking. His inflammatory comments, like saying he'd kill a gay man who looked at him romantically, added fuel to the fire. Critics like monergism.com argue Swaggart's theology, pushing works like Tongues Speaking Over Grace, misled people. But Swaggart's supporters see a man who, despite his sins, changed lives. His crusades filled stadiums, his music topped charts, and his Sun Life network still reaches 21 states. Fans on X called his worship anointed, crediting him with leading them to God. Even after his fall, Swaggart kept preaching, and his family, wife Frances, son Donnie, grandson Gabriel, carried on. To them, Peters' tweet wasn't just a critique, it was an attack on a man who served God for decades, flaws and all. This clash reflects a deeper divide. Peters' Reformed theology focused on doctrine, contrasts with Swaggart's Pentecostal passion, where emotional experiences and redemption matter most. When O'Brien, Locke, Shuttlesworth, and Torn Curtin, all from different corners of Christianity, call out Peters, it shows how his tweet alienated a broad swath of the faith community. The real shocker isn't just Peters' tweet, it's what it reveals about human nature. Peters saw Swaggart as a false teacher whose scandals and theology hurt the church. But by posting so soon after Swaggart's death, he turned himself into the villain. The backlash led by O'Brien's plea for grace, Locke's fiery rebuke, Shuttlesworth's call for love, and Torn Curtin's measured critique shows a community craving compassion. One user's words cut deep. Your lack of empathy for a family grieving loss is absolutely brutal and says more about you than it does him. Peters and Swaggart both reflect human imperfection. One, a preacher who fell, the other, a critic who might have fallen short on grace. So, what do you think? Did Justin Peters' tweet about Jimmy Swaggart cross a line, or was he justified in speaking out? Share your thoughts in the comments and decide for yourself, then subscribe for more stories like this.